many wonderful things in the book. That's one that I want to keep, so I put that on my blog. And so that's what I do. When I think of find things that are kind of interesting a little bit, I just save them there. And I've also found another tool that might be fun for some students in some levels. It's a device on the web called Wordle, and these are word clouds. You go to wordle.net. And they're a lot of fun. And basically what it does is that you take the text, and it creates for you a picture, a word picture. So here's that text again, the same text. Okay, I just copied the text, and I created this Wordle. This is a word cloud. And the word that hits you the most, because it's the word that is the most frequent, is the word become. And really the idea of teaching is, that's the thing that really, hits you. Because that's what teaching is. Teaching is becoming. You are becoming. I think the French word, education, leading, from the idea of leading someone, so you're becoming. Teaching is this journey, is this travel, is this learning, is this becoming. This is what's really quite amazing. I would caution you that some of the material that's seen on the Wordle site is not really, you have to be sensitive about that. So it's not meant for educational purposes, but for my students, I use this in second language, and I took my students' own writing. They all wrote on a particular topic, and they all made these Wordles, and then they wrote something, they Wordled it, and then they wrote about the experience of seeing what they had written in a Wordle. So I took it another step with that. I'd just like to introduce you to a colleague of mine. This is a woman also who won a 3M award. Her name is Kate Frigo, and she's a professor of botany and biology in a university in New Brunswick, and I don't want to misname it. It's University of New Brunswick at St. John, I believe. And her method of thinking about teaching was by means of metaphors. And the metaphor that she used was the metaphor of a gardener. What is a gardener? That is, as a gardener's success is measured by the seeds bearing fruit, this woman Kate believes student learning is the only measure of effective teaching. That is, when you plant a seed, and a seed in a garden, not a seed in a farm, because in a farm it's like an industrial kind of thing. Everything is the same. The seeds in your garden are all different. They need different kinds of nurturing. They need different kinds of soil, etc. But the only thing that you're looking for is when you plant the seed, you want a flower, you want a fruit. You don't just plant the seed and go away. You want some results. And I found this to be very powerful. In fact, one of the things that I did was I took a poem about gardening, and I made a Wordle for this woman, Kate. I made Wordles for all my different friends. And this is a poem. I don't have the original poem, but this is the poem. It's a poem about gardening, and you see magic, garden, gate, grace, reward, patience, flowers grow. Just these wonderful, disconnected words that all give you the metaphor of this garden. And when I showed something like this to my students, they said, it's the language naked. It was really lovely, because the Wordle takes out things like the and. So it really shows the language naked in a sense. So, your students could do this, if not on the web, they could actually do this on paper. But the fun thing about the Wordle is how it comes up.
Did you say the QUILL one?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and this is the text of a huge discussion that all of us, the 3M people, had at a retreat just like this. We had done something and we'd written, something on the blackboard like this, and I took all the words and I threw them together. So you see some of the names of the people, but you see teacher, gardener, metaphor, learning, zest, conditions, class, university, metaphor, all these different words that have to do with the ideas that we had about teaching and learning. And what's interesting about looking at this in a physical sense, as a sort of work of art, is you see how things are kind of crashing into each other. And I think this is one of the things that we deal with when we're in a classroom or when we're thinking about teaching, is that we have so many of these different ideas, and they're all, how do we make sense of them? Because you've got the students' needs, the parents' needs, the administration's needs, your needs, the teachers' needs, the family's needs. You've got all these things crashing together. And from 9 to 4, or from 8 to 3, or whatever, you have to come into this privileged classroom space and do what it is you're supposed to do. with all of these demands on you, all of these things that are happening at the same time. This is the text from QUILL, yeah? That Susan and I worked on together. This was from the QUILL. Yeah, well, you see, you could be outside the classroom. This was the text that's just from the...
It's on the website.
It's on the website. I just cut and pasted. And what really hits me is this word school. And I think that's such a powerful word because school is, it's not just the building, it's not just it's the whole concept of what we are trying to do when we educate students. Like, we need to do a meditation on the word school. Because school and schools, it's not the same thing. Not the same idea. Leadership, lead, association, program, administrators, effective, that's development. Some wonderful words that come out. So it really is a wonderful way for you to take a complicated text and to almost meditate on what is the gist, what is the core of that text. Here's a quote, and I'm coming right to the end. Here's a quote that you've probably seen. We learn 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we discuss, 80% of what we experience, 95% of what we teach others. Now, in fact, if you Google this, there's a whole long discussion. This is by the American psychiatrist William Glasser. There's a whole long discussion that this Glasser took another model and kind of misinterpreted it. However, I have no problem with that. If this is a misinterpretation, I like it. Okay? Because what it's saying is, it's really the last part that I think is important. The percentages aren't important, but the important thing is, what do we learn by being teachers? That's what I've been trying to say here. How do we become learners? And when we teach others, we are the learners. We benefit. We benefit. So this is I think, a very, very interesting thing. I'm certain also that it's important that we experience, it's important that we discuss, not just that we hear. So our students shouldn't just hear, they should experience in some way. And if possible, they should teach others. This is another way you wind up the classroom, you say you teach him, and you teach him, and you teach him, and you stand back. Of course, you've done hundreds of hours of preparation, but if you get Johnny to teach Billy and Sally to teach whoever, it's also this idea of learning by teaching others. Am I at the end here? Thank you. So, if you want more, I don't know if I'm in the time that I'm supposed to be, or if I don't know. Okay? I know it's evening. But I'll just show you where you can find me. My blog is called Sorrel Teacher Blog, because I couldn't think of anything else to call it, .blogspot.com. I'll leave this up here so you can copy it. My delicious links, it's delicious.com/Sorrel. On YouTube, if you want to see my videos, it's youtube.com/user/sfriedman1. If you have nothing better to do with your life, you can follow me on Twitter, Sorrel F, and on Facebook if you're at all interested. You can find me easily. And finally, by just good old-fashioned email, I can leave you my card. It's sorrel.friedman@umontreal.ca. And thank you very, very, very much for listening and allowing me to be here.